And I discovered the 8 traits that lead to great success. Love what you do, work really hard, focus on one thing, not everything, keep pushing yourself, come up with good ideas, keep improving yourself and what you do, serve others something of value, and persist, because there's no overnight success. I also discovered 3 things that don't lead to success, but we think they do. Smarts, looks, and luck, which is why my book is called Stupid, Ugly, Unlucky, and Rich. Because contrary to popular belief, many successful people aren't the smartest, the best looking, or the luckiest. They achieve success because they do these 8 things. So let's go through them. And the first one is passion. When I asked Russell Crowe what led to his Academy Award for Best Actor, he said, the bottom line is I love the actual job of acting. I have a great passion for it. And the thing that surprised me is how often successful people actually use the words love or passion when they talk about what they do, whether it's J.K. Rowling, Donald Trump, or Tiger Woods. Now, the thing about passion is it turns underachievers into superachievers. I have a long list of famous underachievers like Einstein and Bill Gates, who people said would go nowhere when they were kids. Bill Gates was such an underachiever that his parents actually sent him to counseling. I can just hear the neighbors back then saying, yeah, that Gates kid, what a loser. He's never going to go anywhere. And he didn't until he discovered his passion for software. Same with Englishman Ben Saunders. Ben told me he has a report card framed above his desk that says, Ben lacks sufficient impetus to achieve anything worthwhile. Gee, interesting how once he found his passion for outdoor adventure, he could haul a 400-pound sled 800 miles and become the youngest person to ever ski solo to the North Pole. I'd say that takes a little impetus. The big problem is finding your passion. Sure, as a kid who knows they want to be a scientist or a lawyer or a doctor from the time they're 10, but I found a much bigger group of successful people who didn't have a clue what their passion was when they were young and even when they were older, and it took them years and even decades to find it. Or to fall into it. Don Lepore, CIO of Charles Schwab, said to me, I fell into what I do and I didn't know I loved it until I fell into it. And I hear that a lot. The second trait that makes people great is work. All successful people work very hard. Martha Stewart said to me, I'm a real hard worker. I work and work and work all the time. Rupert Murdoch said it's all hard work. Nothing comes easily. But I have a lot of fun. Did he say fun? Yes, successful people have fun working. Arthur Benjamin, a math professor and America's best math whiz, said to me, I'm putting in a lot more than 40 hours a week, but it's fun. That's why I say successful people aren't workaholics, they're really workaholics. The third trait that makes people great is focus. Norman Jewison, famous filmmaker, said to me, I think it all has to do with focusing yourself to one thing and one thing only. Now, many people don't focus, they dabble, and I was one of them. After 10 years at Nortel Networks, working in different areas, I was dabbling in many different things. And on the personal front, I was all over the map. So I was sort of okay at many things, but I wasn't great at any one thing. When I looked at successful people, it was just the opposite. They weren't great at everything. They were only great at one thing. Quincy Jones told me he can't even drive a car or a nail in the wall. He says, I couldn't drive a nail in the wall if my life depended on it, because he focused 100% on making great music, and that's what made him great. The fourth trait that makes people great is push. Successful people just keep pushing themselves. Richard Branson said to me, whatever you're doing in life, just push yourself to the limits. We've got to push through shyness. I'm amazed at how many successful people are incredibly shy. They just keep pushing through it. Larry Page, co-founder of Google, he's got to be one of the shyest guys I've ever met. When I was interviewing him, he was so shy, I wanted to say, it's okay, Larry, I'll go away. I won't bother you. It was painful for me to interview him. But it hasn't stopped him. He's now a billionaire. So many successful people are shy, I figure it's actually a good thing. And in a way it is, because shy people spend more time alone, reading, focusing, using their imaginations. And when they're with other people, they're often the observers and the listeners. And those are all skills for success. But interaction leads to opportunity. You sit next to somebody on a plane, you start yakking, and suddenly an opportunity emerges. And if you're too shy to open your mouth, you miss out on the opportunity. So I say, try and push through the shyness. And we've got to push through self-doubt. Goldie Hawn said to me, I always had self-doubts. I wasn't good enough. I wasn't smart enough. I didn't think I'd make it. And she made it just fine in a tough place, Hollywood, as both an actor and producer. Now, it's not always easy to push yourself, and that's why I named it in Mothers. When I asked Frank Gehry, one of the world's top architects, what led to his success, he said, my mother pushed me. Then he paused and said, oh yeah, my client, Jay Chiat, pushed me harder and harder. So find somebody to push you. The fifth trait that makes people great is ideas. Ted Turner once said, I intend to conquer the world, but instead of conquering with bombs, I intend to conquer with good ideas. And I'd say his idea for CNN News was a pretty, 24-hour news was a pretty darn good one. When I was growing up, you could only watch the news at 6 p.m. and 10 p.m. And I see some nods. He changed all that. Now, ideas are all about creativity, but I don't like the word creative because there's a myth that only artsy people are creative. In reality, everybody is creative. And I worked with many business people over the years who are actually far more creative than the artists I know. As Donald Trump says, deals are my art form. So how do we get ideas? Well, one way is to have a problem, because many ideas just spring from everyday problems. Richard Branson had a problem. He was stranded after his flight to Puerto Rico was canceled. So he got on the phone, chartered a plane, sold tickets to the other stranded passengers, and actually ended up making a profit. The light went on in his head, and he went, gee, I can start an airline. And he started Virgin. Another way to get ideas is to keep your ears open and listen. One night after a concert, Paul McCartney listened to Ringo. Ringo said, gee, I'm knackered. It's been a hard day's night. I don't know if Ringo was dyslexic, but he was always getting his words mixed up. And Paul said, what'd you say? He said, it's been a hard day's night. The light went on in Paul's head, and he and John went away and wrote one of the Beatles' biggest hits. Another way to get ideas is just keep your eyes open and look around. Richard Feynman was a physicist having lunch in the Cornell University cafeteria, and a student stood up and threw a plate across the room. I guess this was the days before Frisbees. And Feynman noticed as the plate spun through the air and wobbled through the air, the Cornell insignia seemed to be spinning at a different rate than the plate. So he says, I got interested in it and went away and worked out the motion of the mass particles, whatever that is. He says, I got the Nobel Prize from piddling around with a wobbling plate. Geez, I look at a plate and all I see is food. This guy looks at a plate and wins the Nobel Prize. That's what I call observation. And that's why IQ is often more important than IQ. As Marilyn Vos-Savant says, and she has one of the highest IQs ever recorded, to acquire knowledge one must study, but to acquire wisdom one must observe. The sixth trait that makes people great is improve. It's like successful people on a continuous mission to improve themselves and what they do. And it's all about getting really, really good at something. As Alex Garden, Game Developer of the Year, says, the best chance you had to be successful is to put your nose down in something and get damn good at it. And how do we improve and get good? There's no magic. It's really practice. When Lance Armstrong was asked how he won the Tour de France for the 7th time, he said, the difference is that my team practices 12 months of the year, not 3 or 4. The 7th trait that makes people great is serve. Success isn't just about me. It's about serving others something of value. So the two questions are, who do I serve and what value do I serve them? Now, sometimes when I say serve, people think I mean in a charity sense, and that's one aspect of serve. But the interesting thing is, serving others is how people really get rich. Just look at a list of billionaires. You'll discover they all got rich by serving somebody something of value. Whether it's Bill Gates serving us software we value, Sam Walton serving us discounts at Walmart, or Martha Stewart serving us homemaking tips. Martha said to me, I came to people with useful information, valuable ideas and products. And there's that word value, and that's what made Martha America's first female self-made billionaire.